All right, what is going on, folks? It is the boys here from across the plane, here to give you our Week 2 NFL Fantasy Football rankings. We're going to go through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and, of course, defenses. This is going to be half-point PPR for you guys. Go ahead and, by the way, make sure you hit subscribe before we get any farther. Click like, hit the bell so you get notified when we do go live, when we upload a video, and all of that. Give us a follow too on Twitter and Instagram at Across the Plane. And if you want to give us a listen on Spotify, we do have a full length podcast. And that's all Across the Plane, just to my left here. And to my left here is Jake.
Jake the Rookie, and I'm THA, just like Across the Plane. You can follow that on Twitter. Make sure to follow Sports Talk Willie as well, Twitter and Instagram for our individual accounts. And yeah, we're here for fantasy football rankings. This is our first video in a long season, so get ready for more content coming out every week. And we have a Thursday night game of Washington and New York Giants this week, so we figured we get these rankings out for you guys. So let's get right to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And drop a question if you have any about your lineups, any specific questions, because obviously these are just broad rankings and can't specifically cover your team. So let's get right into it, though. Top three is pretty consensus, I think, this week. Kyler Murray versus Minnesota. I mean, we all saw what he did last week against Tennessee, and we saw Minnesota last week. We did not look good as a Vikings fan. I am not looking forward to this matchup. I think Kyler Murray is absolutely going to shred us.
Yeah, I also think that I really like him this week. He proved last week against Tennessee that he was capable of making plays, and he has even more weapons this year. It's going to be scary for Kyler Murray. I think he has potential MVP run this year. Definitely a fantasy MVP. This is a guy you love to draft, and you're starting him for sure this week, and you're happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to put up. Someone I want to talk about is Lamar Jackson. I think he has a big bounce back game. He obviously had the issue with the fumbles last week, and it wasn't his greatest game. I think this is the time they kind of put not necessarily a beating, but this is going to be a high scoring game against Kansas City, and I expect Lamar Jackson to play a lot better. Expect the rushing yards as always, and I expect 3-4 passing touchdowns this week.
I think he'll have good luck on the ground. Kansas City looked vulnerable against the run last week. So I would like Lamar Jackson to be rushing a lot too. I like Tom Brady this week a lot. If you have Tom Brady, you're probably starting him. He's probably the guy. And I really like the matchup at Atlanta. Jalen Hurts torched them last week. Only put up 16 points, but he put up 28 fantasy points. And I think Tom Brady I can definitely expect him to throw 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely have a big game. Someone I really like in my top 12 that's not in your top 12 is Jameis Winston. He went out and threw for 5 touchdowns last week. Super efficient against Green Bay. Now, obviously, we all expect Green Bay to play better. We expect the offense and defense to have a bounce-back game, especially playing against Detroit. But Jameis Winston going against Carolina, I expect them to have another great game. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of Jameis Winston this season. I think I think he can be a top 12 quarterback all season long as he stays healthy, honestly. We have Michael Thomas returning in the second half of the season. That should only help. But for this week against Carolina, I think he's a top 12 play. He's got a lot of favorable matchups in his division going against Atlanta and Carolina twice. So I expect another big game out of Jameis Winston this week, and I think he's a very, very comfortable stream.
Yeah, one guy I'm a lot higher on than you is Teddy Bridgewater, which I think could be a viable streaming option if you're in a deeper 12-man league. And he has a matchup against Jacksonville, which looked who did not look good last week. Tyrod Taylor put up over 20 points at the quarterback position. I think Teddy Bridgewater is, you can hope for him to have similar type of numbers.
Yeah, I think he's a definite streamer. Another name for the deeper league, Baker Mayfield is a name I'd be very comfortable streaming against Houston this week. But yeah, there's the top 20 quarterbacks. Again, let us know if you do have any questions specific to your team. But for now, let's get into these running backs. All right, so I'm going to be honest. I don't think at any point in the season, barring any injury, the top three is going to be any different between McCaffrey, Cook, and Kamara.
Maybe if somebody's playing Tampa Bay or something, somebody else slides in. But barring a bad matchup, no, these are the three guys that are getting the volume and they're putting up the yards. And yeah, just getting catches as well. In PPR, it's huge. That's the thing that puts them above guys like Derrick Henry and stuff, because if they all get similar touches, the catches are going to be the difference maker. And yeah, that's the difference between those three guys and a Nick Chubb and a Derrick Henry most of the time.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So, obviously those top guys are no questions. I expect Aaron Jones to have a huge game. I expect the whole Packers offense to have a huge game this week. So I have actually all of their top position players ranked very high, and accordingly, I expect Nick Chubb to have a big game coming out of Houston. I expect Cleveland to get out and get ahead early and just run the football a lot.
Yeah, I really like Najee Harris to bounce back this week too. I think there's a favorable matchup at Las Vegas, and he was in on 58 snaps, I believe, last week, which was a lot. It was a lot of the snap share. He was in almost every play, and against Las Vegas, I think he's going to have way better production than we saw last week at Buffalo.
Yeah, it's a week where we have some tough matchups. Personally, as a Ezekiel Elliott and a Jonathan Taylor owner, I'm not too excited. I do think Ezekiel Elliott has a much, much better game than he did last week. I still think he's a top 10, top 12 play this week. Jonathan Taylor, it's a very tough matchup versus the Rams, but last week we saw he got 9 targets with Carson Wentz, and I do expect Carson Wentz to continue to throw a lot to his running backs. So I think that keeps his floor pretty high and keeps him as a very safe play. I do like Najee Harris. I'm just someone that I always like to see production first. It is definitely a more favorable matchup than Buffalo, but Las Vegas likes to throw, and we'll see what happens. But I do have him ranked as 13. I think all the other guys above him are really good, but I also think I'm also pretty high on him.
He's at least going. I'm almost going to guarantee he does better than he did last week.
Yeah. I have Joe Mixon ranked higher. I have him in my top 10, and you do not. I actually think I really like Joe Mixon all season long, to be honest. He's going to be a player that's getting huge amounts of volume. He's going to get passing work. He's going to get goal line work, and he's going to get massive amounts of carries. I believe he had 28 carries last week, and I don't expect his workload to drop at any point going forward in the season.
They really don't have a RB2.
No, especially since Gio Bernard left. He's been getting more more passing work, so I expect that to continue as well. I think Joe Mixon is a very, very great player, and if you draft him in fantasy, I think your return on investment this season is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, I feel like he was going in the second round for most people, so he's either your RB1 or RB2. And if he's your RB2, that's great, and if he's your RB1, that's great. So yeah. It's working out for you. Guy I like this week as a very safe RB2, I think, is Chase Edmonds. Again, we're talking about the matchup with Arizona, Minnesota. We love Kyler Murray, and I think you're going to love Chase Edmonds too, because I think he's going to get a lot of catches, and I think he's also going to get just a lot of rushing yards as well. The defense did not impress me as for Minnesota last week, and on the road in Arizona is at home. I like Chase Edmonds this week as a safe RB2.
Yeah, I think he has a good floor. I wish, I always do think that uh, a player like a Chase Edmonds probably would have a higher fantasy value if he played with a quarterback that was more of a pocket passer. Um, I just I think I have him just outside of I think I have just outside of the top 20, I believe. I think he's going to be a very good play. It's still just going to be interesting to see the workload going forward with James Conner and how they integrate him into the offense. But I just think with a quarterback like Kyler Murray, his first or his second read is going to be running, and a pocket passing quarterback, their second read is usually checking down. So I don't think we're going to see those crazy high passing, but I think he'll probably average 3 to 4 targets or 3 to 4 catches a game this year, I think. Let's see. Someone I have in my top 20 that you do not is Damian Harris. I really like Damian Harris this week. I think he's going to be one of the most consistent, safest floor players in fantasy football this year. As long as he's healthy, I think he's going to get a good amount of work. And it's just a very favorable matchup against the Jets. They looked really bad last week, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So I expect them to be running all over them. And Damian Harris, I expect him to have over 100 yards, and hopefully he gets that touchdown, and that will put him into that top 20. So let's get in the bottom here. All right. So yeah, I have Chase Edmonds at 22 there. I also had Darrell Henderson inside my top 20. I thought he looked really good. I thought there was a lot of clarity in the backfield. If any concerns about Sonny Michel were wiped away, he was barely involved in the offense at all, which is good to see if you're a Darrell Henderson owner. But we're both pretty high on Myles Gaskin this week. I think he's a very safe play. He should definitely get some passing work.
Yeah, I'm high on Tyson Williams this week. I was impressed with what I saw. It was a primetime game. Everyone got to watch. Monday night, no other games on, and he impressed.
I like Tyson Williams, but I think his fantasy ceiling is going to be somewhat limited. I think we did see some rookie mistakes in that game, and then once that started to happen, we saw more Latavius Murray, and I think we see more and more Latavius Murray. I have Tyson Williams outside of my top 30, which is going to be lower than a lot of other people are this week. I just expect them to be throwing the ball a lot. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. I expect the receivers to get a lot of work. Lamar Jackson to have a big game on the feet and through the air. And I'm a little worried. I actually have Tyson Williams in my team. He would have been a great play last week. I think he still could be a good play this week. I just am a little concerned about Latavius Murray and that he might be the one getting the touchdown this week, and that with the volume spread out, if he doesn't get a touchdown, he's not going to have a very great week. But he definitely has good breakaway speed. Absolutely. He had a very nice touchdown last week. So he definitely could continue. And if you pick them up, especially if you're in a deeper league, I think that's a great pickup and a great play.
I wasn't convinced with Latavius Murray last week. He was not really pushing the ball. He wasn't getting very far with the.
No, it was the blocking though. That was
maybe it was the blocking.
Yeah, he missed Tyson Williams. It was actually he missed a couple of blocks, and then Latavius.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, Latavius Murray's definitely better at blocking than this rookie. I'm just worried about Latavius Murray for fantasy because he just didn't look like he was explosive. Didn't look like he could get more than 5 yards.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the explosive one. I just think he's going to could be like a goal line back. It's just, again, I'm always more of a conservative fantasy player that likes to see it, to believe it. And as much as we did see it, Latavius Murray in his first game, I mean, he had gotten signed less than a week before that game and still ended up with 10 carries, I believe. So I do think his workload is at least here to stay and go forward. And as long as he's getting 10 carries or more going forward, it will eat into Tyson Williams' workload. And we have yet to see what happens with, Le'Veon Bell.
And the Ravens have yet to have the lead, which is something.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just don't think game script necessarily this week plays in their favor. But
no, it doesn't.
But again, like I said, if you're in a deeper league and you pick them up, I do think that's a great play. So someone that I have Javonte Williams at 25. I'm really high on him this week. I actually have Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams next to each other at 25 and 26. And I know looking at the box score and the fantasy points, Melvin Gordon had the much better day, but I always like to chase the volume. And Javonte Williams, as a rookie in his first game, out-touched Melvin Gordon, which I think is huge. And I also think there's something to say for Melvin Gordon's production. Like pretty much all came on one play, and it was like his last touch where he got a 70-yard touchdown, which is awesome if you haven't. Great if you started him, but I just don't think we see that going forward, obviously. And I think we see Javonte Williams' workload continuing to increase. So I'm actually high on both of them, but I really like Javonte Williams this week. I actually am considering flexing him this week in my 10-man league, but I think he's a really, really good play. I mean, he had 14 carries last week, which I think is huge.
For me, one guy I'm a little bit higher on you that I would be probably more comfortable flexing than you would be a James White. I really like James White this week against the Jets, and I think that's a safe play, to be honest. I think with Mac Jones there, he's going to be a good safety option, and I think he's going to be the James White we know, the pass-catching running back we love, the PPR monster he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he should definitely, if you're in a PPR league, I think he definitely could have a good game. I have him ranked a little bit lower just because I just go down the list and I think he's a safe play, absolutely, in PPR. I just think he doesn't have too high of a ceiling. But yes, absolutely a very safe play. But in a PPR league, he definitely could go out and get you a high-scoring game. I'll actually say, let's talk about Devin Singletary because we actually have them both ranked inside the top 35 at least. At least we saw Zach Moss. The Bills said, all right, no Zach Moss, which was nice to see. And it's the Bills offense and there's never going to be a true fantasy RB1, but this might be the season that we see Devin Singletary become a flex-worthy player in like a 12-man league.
I don't know. His name is Devin Single Digits Terry, so it's not a high ceiling for me.
Yeah, and one more player that we both have ranked inside the top 30 is Eli or Elijah Mitchell. And I'll actually say this: I'm not too comfortable while playing him, and as I'm looking at my rankings now, I would actually be more comfortable playing a Tyson Williams over him. It's just the 49ers offense, you just really can't trust them. I mean, they still have Trey Sermon, who was a higher draft pick. They still have JaMychal Hasty. You can never trust them. You can never trust the Kyle Shanahan offense. Wow. He definitely could go out and do it again. He looked really good, but I also think that Trey Sermon is a very talented running back, and I think he's going to end up being the running back to own in his backfield.
Yeah, it might even be his week this week. But yeah, I'm not too high on Elijah Mitchell either. I'm never too confident playing a 49ers running back. Like you said, you don't know who's going to get the ball because, when you think the things change, and that's just how the 49ers and Shanahan rolls.
Yeah, absolutely. Shanahan likes to switch things up. So let's get into these wide receivers. And top 3 probably is going to be, or top 2 at least, probably won't change.
We have the same top 5 this week.
Yeah, we do have the exact same top 5, so not a whole lot to talk about.
Same top
6. Yeah, we both have Keenan Allen at 6. I think that's a high-scoring game. I pretty much every week that Dallas plays football, I think is going to be a high-scoring game. Um, so I think you want all pieces involved of that game and of that offense. But yeah, again, these guys are obvious no-brainer starters if you have them. We both have Amari Cooper inside the top 10, high on him this week against the Chargers. They do have an improved defense, but I just still think Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are going to be top 15 plays each week, every week.
Yeah, Cowboys have a really good offense, and they have injuries on defense right now, which I think we're going to see a big old shootout. So start all your Chargers, start all your Cowboys.
Yeah, and so someone that actually we're both lower on than expert consensus rankings is actually Calvin Ridley. Um, I actually have him at 11, which I know is pretty low, but last week I was not impressed with the Falcons' offense at all. They just looked really bad. Calvin Ridley had an okay game. I think he ended up with about 8.5 half point PPR fantasy points, but I just against a tough matchup against Tampa Bay, I know they're going to be throwing the football because I do believe they're going to get down. I think we all believe that they're going to get down and get down early, but I don't know. I think I'm going to have to fade them a little bit here in this season just because the Falcons offense and Matt Ryan just looked really bad week one. And against Philly, maybe they'll continue to get better, but I just don't think the coaching changes and what they've done to the offense is going to be enough. I thought Mike Davis didn't look good. I think they're too reliant on a Calvin Ridley. I think Kyle Pitts, rookie tight ends generally take a couple years. I think Kyle Pitts might not have as great of a rookie season as everyone wants him to in the fantasy world, but not too high on the Falcons offense.
Yeah, one guy I have in here that you don't is Deebo Samuel, and he's got a tough matchup and ended up going up against Philly. Darius Slay is a very great corner. Deebo Samuel was very effective last week against Detroit, carved them up. Detroit, obviously, terrible defense, not the same. But I look for him to be the guy in this offense, especially with no Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be him and Kittle, and those are really the guys through the air that I'd like to be really just solid this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, a guy I have in here, Mike Evans. He's a guy on my fantasy football team. I think people are all panicking about Mike Evans. He was a top 10 wide receiver last year in half point PPR. This is what he does. He's almost like a Tyler Lockett. He's a boomer bust player. He's going to go out and have a bad game, and then he'll go out and have a big game. I think this week, again, you want all parts of that offense, so I think I have Antonio Brown just outside of my top 20. I still believe Chris Godwin is the clear-cut number one, and then it's Mike Evans, and then Antonio Brown, and I still think that's how the season plays out. I just think they'll end up looking to Mike Evans a lot more in the red zone, but I think this is, again, it's matchup. I think you want all parts of this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 70 points combined or 60 to 70 points combined at all in that game.
I'm playing all three of those guys comfortably, and one of them is probably going to be a top 10 receiver this week. I can almost guarantee that. I don't know which one it's going to be, so comfortably play all of them and hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of them could bust. It definitely could happen, but probably not.
No, I think they're all going to be a safe play.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on to these bottom ranks here. All right. Let's see here. We both actually have T. Higgins at 22. So let's see. I've got Deebo Samuel here at 24. I'm not quite as high on him as you are.
Yeah, and these are my first draft rankings, so I actually have Mike Evans a little bit higher than he is listed. But another guy I also have a little bit higher than he's listed right now is Corey Davis. I think we saw he is the clear number one target for Zach Wilson, and he showed a skill last year and the year before. I really think he got that. He can be that guy in New York, and I think he's definitely WR2 flex in 10-man leagues and with WR1 upside.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like Corey Davis all season. I think, especially where he was going in drafts, I think he's a great return on investment. But yeah, Corey Davis, I think super solid. I do think it is going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup going against New England Patriots. I think they're going to have a good defense this week here, or just all season. But I think that's
two rookie quarterbacks going against each other. That's fun.
Yeah.
In the division matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here.
You're right. You somehow flipped mine to quarterbacks. My quarterbacks are showing up.
There we go. That should be your updated top.
There we go.
20.
That
So yeah, I'm
pretty much the same.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on Deontay Johnson than you are. You have him outside. Just outside. Steelers offense is a little weird, and it's always a little concerning. They have 3 fantasy viable options out there, but the general consensus is Deontay Johnson in any PPR format is definitely the guy you want, and I think that's going to be the case. Especially, it's a favorable matchup against Las Vegas. I mean, the Raiders, they're the Raiders. They beat Baltimore, which is crazy. Yeah. That was a crazy game, but I still expect them to only win, 7 or 8 games, but with a very bad defense. But let's see. Mike Williams is a guy that wasn't drafted actually in a lot of leagues, in a lot of 10 and 12-man leagues. I expect him to have a very, very good week. I definitely think he can outperform his ranking. Now, obviously, he's a big play guy, so you can't rank him too high, but I do think he's going to have a good week, and I do think he's a very flex-worthy player this week, especially if, you're a little concerned you might have a tough matchup. I think he's a player you can throw in and feel very comfortable about, especially with huge upside.
Yeah, I think we see 50, 60 points in this game. So I think he can definitely have a lot of volume in that. Both these guys, teams are going to be throwing, I think. And it's just going to be offense. Like, there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. And Mike Williams, he scored a touchdown last week, and I think he's got the big guy, red zone target. I really like that too. Guy I also like this week would be Sterling Shepard, who's playing tomorrow. I think he'll be a good PPR flex right now. Like I liked what I saw. Daniel Jones seems to look for him when he's like under pressure a lot, and I think Sterling Shepard is going to be a safe play for the flex option.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a floor kind of guy. I mean, Daniel Jones definitely likes to target him in those short intermediate routes, and Kenny Golladay did not have a good game, and I do think he gets more integrated into the offense. But I think Sterling Shepard is definitely the safest play in that passing game in a PPR format. Laviska Shenault, I still like him on the season here. I think he's going to be Trevor Lawrence's favorite target. It is a tough matchup against Denver, but I do think again they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and those throws are going to be going somewhere. And I think a lot of them are going to be going to Laviska Shenault. So I do like him as a deep league flex, and he may work his way up a little bit higher throughout the season. But I think he's going to be a safer PPR floor type of guy.
Yeah, these are the rankings. If you got any guys who didn't fall in these and think want to know if we could start them, just send a lineup and your question, and we'll give you our opinions.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into these tight ends here. And again, we're top twos probably won't ever change.
No, and that's the thing. You drafted these guys early, and you're planning on starting them. You don't need us to tell you. Guy I really like this week, and I'm high on Noah Fant. I think he's got a great matchup against Jacksonville. I think he's very talented, and I think we see him get touchdowns this week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very talented pass catcher. I do have him just outside the top 5. I think Mark, again, definitely don't have two of these guys, so you're not starting all these guys, but I think Mark Andrews is going to be involved in a very high scoring game on a very high volume offense, and I think he's going to be the recipient of a couple touchdowns there. TJ Hawkinson, we saw him be the favorite target of Jared Goff last week, and I expect that going forward. So I'm very high on him all season long. I do really like Noah Fant though. I am a huge fan of him. I do think he has a big game. Also Logan Thomas, another guy that I think is a very solid guy all season in my opinion. And I think if you drafted him, you probably drafted him late and are going to have a good return on your investment there.
Yeah, another guy I like this week, Dallas Goedert against San Francisco. I think Jalen Hurts really likes Dallas Goedert, and he's been scoring touchdowns with Jalen Hurts running the offense. So I like him to keep doing that, and he's gonna get you, I believe, 6 catches this week at least. That's a safe for me.
Yeah, we're also both lower on than expert consensus rankings on Kyle Pitts. I have him at 9. You have him at 11. I don't know. I was never a big fan of Kyle Pitts taking him in the 4th round. I always thought that was a huge reach. I mean, there's been so many tight ends that have been drafted high that it takes a year or two for them to really come into their own as a pass catcher and as a really great tight end. And I think we're going to see that with Kyle Pitts being on an offense that's going to struggle week in, week out. So I think he'll be a solid play, and I think he'll have big games, but I think he's going to have a lot of quiet games as well.
Yeah, I like him in like a 12-man league for sure. I'm not comfortable starting him yet. For me, he has of course, you want to start him when he has that big game, but to me, he hasn't proven that he's going to be better than the guys I got ranked ahead of him. I think they all just are more focused at this point. I don't obviously Matt Ryan likes tight ends, but we saw Hayden Hurst catch passes, Kyle Pitts definitely has that big play ability, though. That's the one thing. He has huge upside. He's one of those guys who can go for 20 plus yards easily in just one play, and that's awesome at the tight end position. But it's the rookie. I want to see him do it first.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Someone who we had mentioned in the breakout video and who I've been high on all season long, who, I didn't really understand why he was being taken so low and not being drafted, was Jared Cook. I think he's going to be a really solid option, and I think in 12 and 14-man leagues, he absolutely should be drafted, and I do think he has top 10 upside. I mean, we saw him have 8 targets last week. 2 of them were in the red zone, converted 5 of them, didn't get a touchdown, but again, we look at the production, we look at those red zone targets for a tight end, and for a player that you can get off waivers or you drafted in the last rounds of your draft, I think is a really, really solid player. He's going to be on an offense that is going to be really, really good under Justin Herbert. I mean, last week we saw that offense. They didn't put up a whole lot. They played a really stout defense in Washington, and again, he still had 8 targets and converted 5 catches. And he had a pretty solid game for a tight end. So I think he's going to have a really good season if he stays healthy. And this week I have him at number 10. And I want all parts of this game. I think every fantasy relevant player has a really good shot at having a really good game in this Dallas Chargers game.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a deep league streamer, I think maybe Cole Kmet. I think he's definitely a guy worth having on your bench. If he's not on your bench and you're questioning streaming tight ends, stuff like that, if you don't have a Waller, Kelsey, Kittle, Hawkinson, somebody like that, definitely Cole Kmet. I think once Justin Fields steps in, his production will be even higher. But so far, I've liked what I've seen, and I think he's going to be the number one tight end in that offense. He's going to surpass Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a solid player. I also have Gerald Everett on my inside my top 12. Again, a player where I think he's just going to be really solid on the Seattle offense. This is a high-powered passing offense, very efficient offense, and I think he could end up being that third target out there, which would be very fantasy relevant, especially at a tight end. All right, let's get to these defenses and wrap this up here. Nothing too crazy here, I guess. You're higher on the Steelers than I am, but again, they're probably defense that you have and that you might have even drafted them, but you picked up with the plan on having them for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Steelers defense has been expected to be a top 3 defense all year, and I like the matchup against Las Vegas. I think they're going to be great at home, and I think we could see turnovers, possibly touchdowns.
Yeah, a defense that I like that could potentially be sitting out there on waivers is the Cardinals defense against Minnesota. I think they have huge turnover upside. And we saw them have 5 sacks last week, or Chandler Jones had 5 sacks alone last week against Tennessee Titans. And Minnesota did not look good. Kirk Cousins took a lot of sacks.
I mean, you can't have 5 sacks 2 games in a row, right?
No, Chandler Jones don't, but the Arizona Cardinals could have a lot of sacks. I mean, they have 2 very good pass rushers in J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones.
Yeah, Minnesota line looked bad. A lot of penalties.
Yeah, and I just think they have high turnover upside. You get the points for the sacks there, and our offense just didn't look too great there. So Cardinals defense, I definitely think is a streaming defense that you can play.
Yeah, how about for me a streamer with
like the Bengals?
Yeah, Bengals. 12-man league. I would maybe stream the Bengals at Chicago. They know what Andy Dalton's got. They've seen him before. Another one I really like. I think we see the Saints defense continue. They got a good matchup against Carolina. I think we can see some interceptions from Sam Darnold, and I would be comfortable streaming that team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. There's the defensive rankings. And again, folks, like we've said, if you have any questions about your team specifically, make sure you do ask, because we know it is tough deciding between those flex players always every week. So let us know your questions. You can shoot us a question on Twitter at AcrossThePlane, like it is in the header here. You can comment on YouTube here. You could check me out on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Sports Talk Willie. I hope you enjoyed, guys. Really appreciate all the views, all the comments, all the interactions. And yeah, we'll have more fantasy football content. Thursday night football is here. We have the Giants and Washington. There's definitely a good amount of fantasy relevant players to go around there. And it might be the defenses that might be the most fantasy relevant there.
Yeah, and again, I'm Jake the Rookie, THA, like across the plane. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that like button, or click that bell for more fantasy football content whenever we go bring that to you, and you should do so. And thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Peace.